I used to have this recurring nightmare as a kid. It usually started off normal. I'm just in my house playing around, and then I would walk to the bathroom window or the side door and look out toward the yard. It would be night, but it would be completely dark, in spite of the fact we lived in a Brooklyn neighborhood, and in the real world the street lamps were bright enough to reach the yard. It was never really dark unless there was a power outage. So that darkness would be the first sign that something was very wrong. Sometimes, I would see the threatening figure right away, and other times it would just be the feeling that a terrible malevolent force was just beyond the protection of the walls, hiding in the darkness. The tension would build in intensity before the threat would finally reveal itself. The threat was always different. Sometimes it was giant, shadowy octopus-like tentacles tearing apart the walls of the house. Sometimes it was a giant praying mantis or a horde of horrifying carnivorous bugs, or a demon, or a witch or some other terrifying monster. Though the characters differed, the plot was always the same. I would be in my home, in the one place I felt safe as a child, only to have that feeling of security torn away, literally. I would find myself suddenly alone in my house that has somehow been transported to a dark void, a pitch black nothingness surrounding the house. The street lights would disappear along with the busy sidewalks and streets. The neighboring attached houses would also vanish. It was complete and total isolation from everything, and everyone. With the threat outside just moments away from completely ripping down the walls, the only barrier that stood between me and that shadowy, evil force, only to wake up just before it got through. Gradually, I grew out of those nightmares, and eventually I grew out of all my nightmares, well, mostly. I no longer live in that congested, overpopulated neighborhood in the city that never sleeps. I now reside somewhere in the middle between that, and quiet, empty and isolated woods in the middle of nowhere. It's a nice change and a good balance for me. However, recently I have found myself remembering those old nightmares, and looking through my window at the empty dark yard, and almost seeing the darkness come alive and threaten to come for me. As a kid that seems terrifying, but as an aging adult, I find myself less and less afraid with each passing day. Sure, I have my worries and my daily stress from everyday life, but the threat of an inevitable end doesn't frighten me as much anymore.